that song is Counting Stars. From outside from the studios of Orange 94.5 FM, it's 9 minutes downside the hour of 11. It's time for Setting the Record Straight with Adeli Guega. Please stay tuned.
Well, most definitely it feels good to be here, and I must thank you for that lead, Oyewumi Akinsolu. Welcome to Setting the Record Straight on Orange 94.5 FM. It's one show where we put in proper perspective issues that revolve around the polity here in the Sunshine State. And again, I've got someone that we engage in conversations over and over again on the show today. That's another person, but a barrister at law, Mr. Gbenga Akinmoyo. Good to have you on the show again.
It's a pleasure, and a very good Wednesday morning, still morning, to all our listeners at home. That song that they were just playing is an interesting one. Counting dollars. We can't talk about dollars in this country anymore, but that's where we're at.
Well, we have so many things to talk about. Let's go straight to the heart of our discussion. Now, a few days ago, the People's Democratic Party petitioned President Buhari, the NJC, the Attorney General of the Federation, on Justice Abrams' ruling. You know, the councils too, and of course, your appeals. What were your prayers in this petition?
Right. Thank you very much for that question, Diolu. May I say, probably for the last time, I'll just go over a quick synopsis, because I say the last time because we're going to have hopefully a judgment coming from the court tomorrow. But for those who've been reading about the court proceedings, the court battles on social media, and trying to decide whether or not they're going to go with the party that ought to be followed, they need a little bit of background. If you permit me, I'll just give a little background to what's been happening. The People's Democratic Party, as a party that's well constituted, organized ward, local government, and state congresses early in the year. To be precise, on the 30th of March, we had our ward congresses. On the 2nd of April, we had our local government congresses. And then on the 5th of April, we had a state congress. Those congresses, as those who are familiar with politics, produce the executives who are expected to run the affairs of the party in their respective domains. They also have some responsibility for organizing what is called the Congress. Not that they organize it, but the headship of the party in Abuja at Wadata Plaza would at some stage send a delegation down, usually 3 or 5 senior members of the party, to organize a Congress or a primaries, as we call it, that will produce, in an election year as this, our candidate. In the case of the PDP Ondo State, we organized our primaries on the 22nd of August 2016. And the person who emerged in a 2-horse race was Tayo Jegede, and that's why we forwarded his name as the authentic candidate of the party. Now that is all nice and good for Ondo State. We are quick to recognize that there has been some strife within the party at the national level. Some of you would have heard about Sheriff faction, McCarthy faction. That's at the national level. But we don't have a similar discontent in our states. So it was a surprise to us when, in the first instance, a group of 9 people went to court in June and got a judgment at the Federal High Court. And some might be wondering, what's the Federal High Court? The Federal High Court is only one in Nigeria. There's only one Federal High Court. But for convenience, what happens is that you have branches of that single court. So you have a Lagos branch, a Lagos division, you have an FCT division, you have a Port Harcourt division, so that people are not ferreting themselves all over the country just to get to the Federal High Court. But it's just one High Court that exists, and it's split into divisions. So a judgment came out on the 29th of June, which was given by Justice Abang. Justice Okon E. Abba. Famous for many things, but I won't go into that now. That judgment gave the prayers that were sought by the plaintiffs. And who were the plaintiffs? Nobody called themselves PDP chairman or anything of that sort. You had one person representing each of the southwest zones, and there were 3 other people. And in their petition, they said, representing myself and the good people of PDP in my state. So they didn't lay claim to the fact that they were chairman, secretary, or anything. They just simply said, we're the good people of PDP in these various states. And we have an issue. And our issue is that in 2014, some executive members were appointed to run the affairs of the Southwest Geopolitical Zone, PDP. And since the Constitution says they should be there for 4 years, then what? They don't leave office till 2018. And that sounds fair. So a judge who says, if that's what you're looking for, I will give it to you. And he gave it to them. But they didn't lay claim to state executive, they didn't talk about primaries, they didn't go into any details. So looking at it from afar, you would say the judge did his job. But what we now find out is that for that case to have come to court, there was some underhand activities that took place. And
that's what you suspect?
No, this is what we have now found out in the open.
How?
We found out because we have gone to the court records to find out how a case concerning PDP will not come to our notice as PDP Ondo State if it affects us. And what the court has told us is that this petition was filed by a lawyer called Olagoke Fakunle, SAN. His chambers filed that application, and it was duly signed to represent those 9 people.
Okay.
On the other hand, we also find from the court record that that same Olagoke Fakunle was the lawyer that represented PDP.
How come?
So what you have is that on the one hand, you're taking a matter to court.
On the other hand,
you're also defending or acting on behalf of one of the defendants. Now, in law, that is a conflict of interest. If you see it 10 kilometers away as a lawyer, you have to just wash your hands and say, I can't have anything to do. You cannot act for both sides. If you see it 10 miles away, talk less of it happening in your own chambers. And if I give you an example, in a civil case, both sides are looking for favor from the judge. They want the judgment to go in their own favor. And what you normally have is secrecy. And you plan and plot your strategies, you put it down on paper. Guess what? In this particular case, the same printer in the same office produced the documents for the plaintiff and the documents for the defendant. So there was no no discretion, there was nothing hidden. That's why we say it was a conspiracy. But we only just found that out recently when we inquired as to how it is that PDP could not be represented. Now, on the strength of that judgment, a chap called Poroye goes around saying, I am now the chairman, I'm now the chairman. He didn't ask for chairman when he got to court. Because if he had asked the judge that declare me the chairman, the judge would have asked him, how did you become the chairman? Because you have a party constitution, which you've put in front of me. But ingeniously or, dubiously, we would say, he now lays claim to the fact that he's the chairman of the party. And therefore, INEC should play ball. In playing ball, what they are saying is that INEC must listen to Poroye as far as Ondo State is concerned. And any name that Poroye forwards to INEC is what should be accepted as the candidate for PDP. Now, that is not what the PDP constitution says. The PDP constitution says that it is the national body in Abuja that should tell us who is the governorship candidate for your party.
Okay.
And as far as Supreme Court judgments are concerned, that is established law. It is a party matter. Courts do not get involved. They are encouraged not to get involved because parties should organize themselves as they wish. Whoever you feel, through your own processes you have selected, send the name forward. But before we get to that stage, what we now find, almost 2 weeks ago, on the 14th of October to be precise, is that the court, the same judge, Justice Abang, sat again as a result of a petition that was made around about the 29th of September. And what was Poroye saying? And I can imagine. He went into the courtroom and he said, you know what, Judge? Are you not a justice of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Are you not the one that gave me this judgment in June? And yet, INEC are going around doing what they like. That can't be right. That's a contempt of court. So the judge must have sat up and said, yes, I gave this judgment. So what is going on? INEC are recognizing somebody else. Whoever INEC has put down on that paper, go and change it. And that's what the judgment that was pronounced on the 14th of October. And I'm putting that in layman's language so that our listeners at home can understand. But what we found out is that that case that came up on the 14th of October, Poroye did not go to his former lawyers. This time, he goes to another firm, R.A. Oloyede, and the same gimmick tactic was engaged. The plaintiff lawyer and the defendant lawyer represented by people from the same chambers. Again, we got that from the court's record. Now we're asking questions to say, if these people connived to get a judgment, did the judge also open his eyes and let that happen in Nigeria under the present administration? But we won't call Buhari into question because he's not the judiciary. He's the chief executive of the executive arm of government. But we have now reported, in the first instance, all these shenanigans to the president. Okay. And we've said, under your watch, surely this cannot happen. And it's coming at a time when we are questioning the integrity of our judges, even at the highest level of the Supreme Court. We've also said to the professional bodies of these lawyers, and there are senior members of the bar, SANS involved, how is it possible that you can organize these kind of kangaroo arrangements leading to kangaroo judgments in 2016 in Nigeria? If it happens in Ondo State, it will happen elsewhere. We put that petition before the professional bodies. We petitioned the NJC, the National Judicial Council, to ask questions of Justice Okon E-Aban. Why and how? Now, it may be that on the 29th of June, the judge had a bad day. He woke up on the wrong side of bed. He got to the courtroom and anything they were saying, he just listened and listened and listened and gave them what they were asking for. But on the 14th of October, when everybody in this country knows Ondo State is doing an election, everybody knows that there is a tussle between Sheriff and McCarthy in the whole country. Everybody knows that Eitayo Jegede is being promoted by PDP in Ondo State. And supposedly somebody else is laying claim to being in the driver's seat, i.e. Jimo, is it Jimo Ali or Jimo?
It's Jimo.
Jimo for lunch or something like that. Can't remember his name because it doesn't really matter. But he's also laying claim. What you would have thought is that Justice Aban will sit up and say, hold on a second, there is something wrong here. Where is the said Jimo Ibrahim? And where is the said Eitayo Jegede? Let them come and tell me how they came to be elected by their party. Let me have some more facts on this matter. But guess what? The judge simply took hook, line, and sinker what the plaintiffs were arguing for, contempt of court, and what the defendant's lawyers, remember, it's connived same chambers, and he took it on board. So we are saying that either the judge had 2 bad days or something fraudulent was going on. Well, and that's why we petitioned. And by tomorrow, INEC has a responsibility to publish the final list of all the candidates who will be contesting. And it also coincides with a judgment coming from the court.
Now, how confident are you that that will be in your favor?
The other